Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm out here in the garden and just getting ready for some early spring plantings. I want to proliferate out the Buddha belly bamboo that you saw me propagate in a few videos back. And so I've gone every 10 feet and I've scrubbed back the mulch layer. I've put a lemon there just to identify the various planting holes. And I want to go ahead and get the holes ready for planting. I've got these spaced at every 10 feet, and so I think that that would be pretty adequate for a full-size bamboo. I figure they'd probably go in 5 feet on either side from center to center, and so it should fill in pretty nicely given a few years. And so I just wanted to show you how to go ahead and prepare a planting hole and what I do as far as creating a berm and amending the soil. I'm amending the soil a little heavy, just because it is bamboo, it is a grass. They're heavy feeders and they like heavily amended soil. So I've got some really superb garden soil mixed with compost. Actually, while I'm here, let me just show it to you. And I'll show you how I go about doing it. It would be the same principles as with any other planting, but I would mix more native soil in. As you can see, I've got biochar throughout this soil. I've got compost here. I've got some of the Kellogg's Amend. I've got some aged manure and just all kinds of good stuff in here that I'm going to be using. I just wanted to give you a view of what it is I'm going to be putting into the hole. And I like to, if I know I'm going to be planting a plant in the spring, I like to get that hole dug and amended as early as possible. And that way all the amendments within that hole have significant amount of time to adapt. The worms can come in, the life can come in, and then when you go to plant early spring or whenever it is, that hole's already going to be ready. And so all you really have to do at that point is just dig a hole the same size as the pot and plug it in and water it in real good, and it's going to be situated. So with these, I'm going to be digging out about 2 to 3 times the width and diameter of the pot, so it will be a larger hole. The native clay that I'm pulling out, I'll make a berm around, and that'll just act as a water retention means for the first year or so. That berm will dissipate or dissolve over time, but for the most critical periods of this bamboo's life, or any plant that you're planting in, the first year is really critical on getting it acclimated. A general rule of thumb is the first year it sleeps, the second year it creeps, and the third year it leaps. And so for the first year, while it's getting acclimated to its new home, you really have to baby any new planting. Make sure it gets plenty of water, check on it regularly, make sure that it's not being scorched by the sun, or just be very diligent on any new planting. And so having a berm around the plant really helps with that, and just helps keep all that water and moisture in the hole. So I'm going to get you set up here and we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so I have the lemon there as the marker for where I want to put the pot. And so what I want to do is, imagine the pot's going to go out about this far, so I just want to go out another length, and that's where I'm going to be digging. And then essentially from there, I'm just going to make a large diameter circle around this lemon. It's just a little tough here, which is a little surprising because I've had it mulched for a good number of years. Maybe it could have been a location with some heavy caliche, but it is workable. I mean, before I mulched the soil, you couldn't even dig. You would have to dig a few inches and fill the hole with water, and then dig that mud out and dig the hole with some more water. So it has made a noticeable improvement, but I think it just gets better with time. And these holes just need to be about the depth of the potted plant that you're going to be planting. So now that I've got my hole lined out, what I want to do, just make sure I have enough room around the planting hole for a berm. I'm just going to start taking some of this out of the hole itself and start creating a berm. A berm is just a wall, like a small hill or a wall going around your planting hole that's going to hold in all the water. So when I set this up on drip irrigation, when it waters this area, it's going to be retaining all the water. It's not going to be running off to and fro, and so it's just going to significantly help out with the water retention. And if I really wanted to be slick, I would have, and I still can, make these holes square. Making square planting holes versus circular planting holes will help with the roots going outwards rather than just going in a circle like a pot. It will just train them to hit a wall, and versus circle, it'll actually go outwards. So I've got a little bit of hard pan here I've got to dig through. That is some former caliche. I can see some of the white on this. I don't know if that's gonna pick up there, but I've got some white hard pan on some of this soil. So this is some pretty good caliche here. This is, see this white, if it can pick that up, that is caliche, desert caliche. If you have really hard, heavy clay, you can get what's known as caliche, which is almost impenetrable unless you amend or mulch and get rid of it by that means. Gypsum, also, if you have heavy clay, putting some gypsum in the hole is a good idea, and it'll help break up really hard soils and work its way in and help out. I'm squaring off this hole just a little bit. All right, and I'll go ahead and just build up the berm a little bit more. Now, if you were planting a fruit tree or just a standard flowering or ornamental tree, you would want to mix some of this native soil in with your planting mix. Don't just use all amended soil. You'd want, I would say, at least 20% of this in with your amended soil. And don't layer soils inside of the holes. You actually want to put them inside of a wheelbarrow and thoroughly mix them all together. When you layer it, it can cause problems. And so it's best to thoroughly mix any soil beforehand in a wheelbarrow or off to the side, and then go ahead and add it to the hole once done. And this would be an excellent time to add any mycorrhizae or anything along those lines, azomite, any of those trace minerals or elements or anything along those lines. If you wanted to put any of that into your hole, obviously I'll be adding some biochar, which is the main ingredient in what I do. So this is a great planting hole here. As you can see, I've got a really nice berm that sticks up about 4 inches from the mulch surface. And so what I'll do is, once I put in all my soil, I'll go ahead and I'll mulch the whole thing. I'll even mulch the berm, the planting hole, and so this whole thing will be mulched. And when I go to plant, I'll just scrape back the mulch from the center of this hole and plop in the plant. And so I'll just go ahead and show you how I fill in the hole. So ideally what I want to do is I just want to make this level with the surrounding soil, which I'm going to pack it down just a bit. Got some air pockets in it, so you want to pack that down. And and that's going to be pretty close with the soil surface. It might be just a little higher than the surrounding soil, but when I water this, it is actually going to settle just a little bit. And so, you know, building it up just a little higher inside is not a problem because it will settle. But you just want to make sure that you leave this berm, you know, 3 or 4 inches taller than the rest of the plant or the planting hole, so that when you go to water this, all that water is just going to stay in here and it's going to sink down. One thing that I forgot to do that I should have done is when I have the hole dug out, I should have taken my shovel and I should have pierced the sides of the hole. That way the roots have means to get out of the planting hole. So I failed to do that on this hole, but I will be sure to do that on some subsequent holes. And what I'll do is on my next hole, I'll just show you that process. It's real easy. You just take your shovel and you just essentially score all the way around the planting hole. And that way the roots, when they go to the hole ends, there will be a scored section there that will assist them on getting out. And so that is what you want to do. But this is how to prepare a planting hole, in this case for bamboo. But this same would apply to any other planting, except in the case that you would want to mix some of your native soil in with pretty much anything else, unless it's a really heavy feeder. I'll do this technique with bamboo as well, or excuse me, banana as well. But it never really hurts to mix some native soil in. It's just with bamboo being a grass, it's preferred to make it as nutritious of a mix as possible. Here we are at the next hole. I just want to show you what I failed to do on the last hole. And if you can remember to incorporate this, it will definitely help out with your planting. So what I want to do is going around the interior of the hole, I just take my shovel and I just make these nice score marks going throughout the hole. That way it's not a smooth interior hole, and when the roots want to find out or find their way out, they will grapple inside of these score marks and then push their way through. By the time the roots do that, this interior soil will be well amended and softened, and it will definitely be able to push its way out of there a lot sooner. Another thing I like to do is on the bottom of the hole where you've stopped digging, just go ahead and take your shovel, put the score marks into the bottom of the hole as well, and that'll just help break up the bottom pan of the hole to where the roots will have a much easier time going downwards as well. So those are a couple other tips I just wanted to share with you when making a planting hole, and that will, with incorporated, that will make your planting that much more successful. And the last step is mulching the new planting hole. Because I'm planting bamboo, I really want to put a mulch on that's going to be bacterial dominated. So as bamboo being a grass, it would benefit more from a bacteria-based mulch versus a fungal dominated mulch such as wood chips. So when you're planting fruit trees, you really want a fungal dominated mulch, which would come from woody material like wood chips. But if you're planting any vegetables or greens or grasses, they would benefit more from a bacteria-based mulch. So I'm just going to be using straw. Just going to put a really good layer of mulch on the entire planting hole, and then I'll water it in. That way the straw doesn't fly off and go anywhere else. So once the straw becomes wet and waterlogged, it pretty much stays put. And that's all there is to it, my friends. I showed you from start to finish how to make a planting hole, and this would apply to every type of planting out there. This one was more suited to bamboo, but you can pretty much use these same practices for any type of planting. So I hope you learned something new, and I surely appreciate you coming in and checking out the channel and checking out the video, and I hope you have a great day. God bless you. Take care.